This week's episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast is brought to you by SugarCRM. If your sales team is struggling to close deals, SugarCRM can introduce you to modern, insight-driven sales. Energize your CRM with Sugar. Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. With me this week are Anna Wells and Nolan Beilstein. We're the editors of Manufacturing.net and Industrial Equipment News, and we each have several years of experience covering the manufacturing industry. Every week, we cover the 5 biggest stories on our websites and discuss the implications they have on the industry moving forward. Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Nolan, David, or Anna at IN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube at IN Magazine so you can get a notification whenever we go live every Thursday. Or it's an easier way to just digest the podcast with the several shorts that we post throughout the week to get you caught up on the news. And Anna, it's great because they're AI generated, and sometimes they'll just cut right there. Where it's just like, it's great because we didn't have to create it, but it it cuts you off in mid-thought. Yep. Like even AI's had enough of me. How are you doing this week?
Doing great.
Yeah? Nolan, it's good to have you.
Yeah, thanks. I had this real whammy prepared if you were going to say 20 years of experience, but since you edited that script, I won't be able to break that out.
A real whammy.
So I have to wait till next time.
Yeah, just like 20 years of experience in progress. I could have done collective experience.
I was going to say something like, as we embark on this new episode, I can't help but think when I started at the ripe age of 10 years old covering the manufacturing industry, but
that's ageist, man.
I was stripped of that opportunity.
We will not stand for your ageist behavior. Well, it's good. I mean, I know you've been on the panel a couple of times, but this is the first time. I think every time you've been replacing me. So it's good that, we've been able to, we can share this table together.
I've never had the same panel more than once.
Wow.
So here we go.
All right. Well, let's get after it. Before we get into the first story this week, we have a new word from our old sponsor, SugarCRM. This week's episode is brought to you by the IDC MarketScape 2024 CRM Platform Vendor Assessment from SugarCRM. Providing personalized and user-friendly experiences for B2B customers is critical for retaining lasting business relationships. However, doing this at scale can be difficult, but it doesn't have to be if you select the right CRM provider. This report reveals which CRM software vendors best serve industrial manufacturers and their customers. Download the IDC MarketScape 2024 CRM Platform Vendor Assessment from SugarCRM. Right now, there is a link to download it in the body copy as well as in the live chat. Let's jump into it. Our first story this week: Amazon's internet satellites run into production delays. Amazon's Project Kuiper is an ambitious effort and stands as the only real potential competitor to SpaceX's Starlink satellite internet service. But the project has hit a few snags. According to a report from IEN's Ben Munson, Project Kuiper has hit production delays. It has a government deadline to have some 1,600 satellites in orbit by next summer. So far, it has 27. So, a lot of room for improvement. And it will need to more than quadruple production capacity to meet this deadline. Part of the problem is transportation. Project Kuiper is having trouble finding rides on rockets. Amazon is also dealing with faulty components from suppliers, as well as the fact that it's an e-commerce giant first and an aerospace manufacturer maybe not even second. Amazon notably chose to build the satellites on its own rather than outsourcing the work. Last year, the company opened its Project Kuiper manufacturing hub in Washington. It's a 172,000 square foot factory filled with custom equipment that pumps out 5 satellites per day at peak capacity. The company plans to send another 27 up later this month, but it may need an extension on its deadline, which could get a little murky. Anna, how do you think the powers that be at Project Kuiper feel about the head of their biggest rival being a top White House advisor when they might need to reach out to the White House for a extension?
I think that's maybe one of many issues that they're having competing against SpaceX. So Project Kuiper did successfully make that launch of 27, but SpaceX, the observers were talking about how it happened, but there was a Starlink launch less than 3 hours before this, Atlas 5 launch. There was another SpaceX launch like a couple hours after. I think it just sort of illustrates how much further underway SpaceX is in this endeavor.
Yeah.
SpaceX has them on volume. Uniquely, Amazon says it's made improvements on the performance of every system and subsystem on board, including phased array antennas, processors, solar arrays, propulsion systems, and optical intersatellite links. One thing I found interesting is that Amazon is actually addressing an issue that has been brought to light by astronomists.
Oh.
I don't know if you remember when this stuff first started to come out, but there was a lot of pushback from the astronomical societies, people angry with what it was doing to the night sky, the clutter that it was creating, the light reflection that it was creating. And so according to space.com, the new satellites that have been produced by Project Kuiper are coated in a dielectric mirror film unique to Kuiper that scatters reflected sunlight to help make them less visible to ground-based astronomers.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so they have that going for them. I thought that, to be honest, to me, that was the most interesting thing to take away from this in terms of what is unique and special about Kuiper. Will they get there? I don't know. I mean, SpaceX has such a massive lead, and as you mentioned, a little bit more in the president's ear, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So
it may be difficult for Amazon to get any special sort of dispensations, extensions, whatever here. Although Amazon's founder, Jeff Bezos, is also extremely influential and wealthy.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he could find a way.
Yeah, I'm sure that he could dig deep and find a way.
Yep.
No, it is great that the one thing Project Kuiper is definitely winning on is the space junk aesthetic, where they're just
right.
we want to get it up there, but we don't want to make it so you can see it. I mean, Nolan, you have to be familiar with this. I feel like anytime I'm outside looking at the sky, or my kids are looking at the stars and they're like, "Is that the Big Dipper?" I'm like, "Yeah, kinda." And then when you're stargazing and then the stars start blinking, you're like, "Oh, not that one. Maybe that one. Not that one either." I mean, there's something to be said about, at least appreciating the value of a cleaner night sky, I guess.
I don't do a lot of stargazing, but I do like to play the game of, is that an asteroid or a satellite floating across the sky? So, but when I read this story, I mean, I know a little bit about Amazon's upbringing. Were they selling books out of Jeff Bezos' garage? They were a startup. And so it seems like they're trying to replicate the startup DNA as an aerospace manufacturer, which, as you said, they're really not. I mean, they make their own drones, right? So are they relying on the playbook for building warehouses and cloud services and delivery drones as being able to transfer to something as complex as space? And I mean, just why did they choose to make production internal? Was it just all about control? They control the entire process? Was it as simple as they just underestimated how hard this would be? And if it was poor forecasting and they eventually get it, are they already thinking about what it's going to take to maintain it? Or is this going to be another thing that's met with growing pains?
Yeah. Well, I think they remind me of a startup that is wildly popular, right? Where they're just like, "Oh, we've got the coffers. So we don't have to know how to do aerospace manufacturing. We'll figure it out along the way, and we're not going to run out of money." I guess that's the one thing this startup, which might actually be the kiss of death for any startup, is just hey, we know we won't run out of money. And that could be definitely seen as a negative, but it also means that they're probably able to rely on some of the best engineering talent that's out, engineering and manufacturing talent out there. They're probably able to rely on the most state-of-the-art equipment to build this. But it also really enables a lot of scope creep, project creep, and you can kind of sometimes still be exposed as just like, yeah, we still don't know what we're doing, or we've never done it before. One thing from this story is I couldn't believe that 3 billion people in the world still don't have high-speed internet connectivity. That is just wild to me. Like communities that just can't be connected with traditional fiber. I do also like how they are called Starlink's biggest rival, and the scoreboard is 27 to 7,000.
Mm-hmm. Hey, second place is second place.
I guess. I also wondered if there's any play for Project Kuiper in that Golden Dome concept that we talked about. And whether or not they could pull any work from those contracts, I don't know. I was just, if we're talking about building some of the state-of-the-art stuff, and it also was kind of a reminder of how like President Biden's Internet for All was like a really great idea, but after 4 years, they only connected about 2.4 million people and businesses. And I know that my own personal expectations for that, being in a community up north that is not connected, I was like, finally. And then after 4 years, it's like, what happened? Like there's nothing there. We did nothing. And it's frustrating. So I think this is a really exciting project to keep watching. And I do, sometimes when we talk about what's the use of 2 billionaires competing and, like the first one to space and stuff like that, this is a good one. We're talking about getting more people connected to the internet with hopefully good information, right?
Yeah, and at a bare minimum, it's good to have some competition in these spaces, not just one company kind of running the whole show. That would be a problem.
That is, yes, competition's always good. Helps with that cost savings, right? That we're all after.
Yeah.
Our next most popular story this week: Speedboat goes airborne trying to break speed record. On Saturday, a speedboat flew. Now, this isn't the typical application for a waterborne craft, but this twin-hull boat manufactured by Skater wasn't just on a weekend cruise. The boat, called the America One, went airborne and did a complete backflip after it topped 200 miles per hour during an annual speed contest called the Desert Storm at Lake Havasu in Arizona. The 2 racers inside the boat survived, though they were, quote, a little banged up. And this is after they were retrieved from the boat that soared at least 30 feet in the air, some said as high as 60. They had harnesses and helmets on, and somehow the flying boat still managed to cross the finish line, and they won the contest by registering a top speed of 200.1 miles per hour. The boat is designed to rise up and hydroplane across the surface of the water. Just not that far. Windy conditions, propeller adjustments, also known as trim, and happy thoughts likely led the boat to fly. The boat was extensively damaged, but Anna, this to me is a testament to advancements in safety equipment and protocols, as well as material development. When the passengers were discovered alive, just 20 seconds after the crash, mind you, one person said, it's a miracle that they were alive. And I don't know. I didn't think it was a miracle. I just thought, this is innovation.
Yeah, obviously kudos to the designers of this craft. That was incredible. When I saw the video, I was like, well, those people are dead. You know, I didn't read the article first. I saw the video first. I'm glad that they're okay. I hope that this will still impress upon viewers that this was incredibly dangerous to burn across a lake like this, because you see this stuff go viral. These people get a ton of attention. It's super kind of exciting. And it sort of sends the message, in my opinion, that this is a thrill sport and encourages people to maybe try their own version of this because it was so cool and nobody died. But this organization, as you mentioned, they are a charitable organization that arranges these events, and I don't want to detract from that. I read another report on this company, and they are based in Kansas City, The boat is said to be powered by private donations. The crew is entirely volunteer. Every dollar they raise from race winnings, merchandise sales, and sponsorships is donated to charity. So that's great, right? So this past weekend alone, they said that they raised $20,000 during the Arizona race, and then they immediately gave it back to the local community. They've supported things like St. Jude's, Wounded Warriors, things like that. So after the race, one of the leaders from this organization said, we don't want notoriety for ourselves. We want notoriety for charity. And I hope that winds up being the focal point, but I don't think it is. And, again, like the design served its purpose here, and it was still incredibly lucky that it did not go the other way. I mean, that was a crazy, crazy crash. And I worry that I don't know. Is this necessary to raise money for charity? It was so risky. Nothing ruins a nonprofit more than the catastrophic and gruesome accident. Could we do it another way?
Well, I mean, I think a couple of tweaks to the design to keep her on the water next time. But I understand. I mean, especially right now, the charity landscape is so incredibly competitive. Just trying to get people to pay attention to a cause you believe in and draw eyes. I get it, because it becomes this increasing people are trying to do crazier things to gain your attention, to try and raise a little bit of money, because you're talking about, what would you say, $20,000? I mean, that's a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, what is this, it's a multi-million-dollar aircraft boat.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But I do think that my take on this is that people are always going to go fast and break things. And really, it's the engineering and technology that's going to keep up to make it safer. No one's going to stop doing it.
But do you think that the engineering and the technology also were behind the fact that
enable it
went airborne? I mean, nothing stopped that from happening. So
no, it's like they said, it was a perfect storm. The wind just hit them perfectly. And next time when they're at the drawing board, they need to think about, now what if? I know we think the chances are real slim that the wind hits us perfect, but what if next time? Nolan, when you saw this thing take flight, what were some of your initial thoughts? And maybe, what if they could just get a deep-pocketed benefactor that could, maybe for every view of this viral video, they will donate $1 to this charity. There we go. Now it's a great story.
But at what cost, right? I don't understand. I'm going to sound like a grouch here, but I don't want to be. But where does this fascination come from with pushing machines and people to these breaking points? Is it the thrill for adrenaline? I'm not a grouch. I've jumped out of airplanes, but that's a calculated risk.
Yeah.
And proven, well, yeah. I mean, it's is it the recognition? But also,
because they didn't even, they all race under aliases. So I think they make the exact same, don't they make the exact same decision? It's a calculated risk. And this one's probably arguably safer than jumping out of a plane.
I don't know.
That was not arguably safer than much.
Well, I mean, on paper, when you're doing, if you're looking at going fast in a boat and jumping out of a plane, I have to feel like going fast in a boat is safer than jumping out of a plane.
I don't know. I don't think so. Some of those instructors that I worked with, they had thousands and thousands, and they've the biggest snafu they ever ran into was the parachute gets a little tangled and you just reach up and do it like that and it comes undone. But they were trying to go 206. They lost control at 200 and someone broke their collarbone, their banged up ribs, and a semi-fractured knee. And the lake that they were doing it on is reportedly famous for people trying to do this fancy stuff, try to go really fast, water sports and races. And a Jalopnik article said there have been 11 fatal accidents on that body of water since 1963. The most recent one in 2018, when 2 people died going 150. Ooh. They're going 150. These people were trying to go 206.
True, but I would say I don't know anything about the previous crash. All I know is that when I saw the video from inside the boat, that was a boat built for going fast. And built for surviving a crash going fast. You know, I mean, I think it's way more. It is a safer vessel than, you know, people just weekenders out on the water trying to go 150 in their cigarette boat. I don't know. Like I said, these guys were, I mean, part of the team, you talk about them being volunteers. Part of it is, you know, kind of inspirational. The driver and the throttle man were both in their 50s. Like you said, there was a broken collarbone, fractured ribs. The throttle man has bum knee now. Their race aliases, did you see what they were?
No, I didn't even know the alias thing was a thing.
Yeah, so they have one of them was John Wayne and the other was Clint Eastwood. That's how they're known. And just like, excuse me, Mr. Wayne, would you like to comment? And they decided not to. So the world record, it's a little murky as to who holds the world record. How fast do you think the fastest person went on water? This is 200.1 miles per hour.
On a boat?
On a jet-powered hydroplane.
Okay. Good Lord.
Named the Spirit of Australia.
All
Is it
right,
like
just
300?
Just tell
Yeah,
us.
317.58 miles per hour.
Doesn't
I wouldn't
your,
even
like,
be able to. I wouldn't even be able to enjoy that. The
No,
whole
you
time
wouldn't.
I'd be spending worried. Like, well, if this goes wrong, bye.
I would be like, is my skin off? Did my skin fly off? Like,
But like, don't you like? I mean, it's like when you go downhill on a bicycle without, you know, and you have the wind in your face, or when you're going fast on a motorcycle, or when you jumped out of that plane. That feeling is why people will always do this till the end of time. I don't know. And also, you don't talk about like, you know, what does Jeff say always? Like, expect the best but plan for the worst. I mean, the fact that they had a boat that had an escape hatch designed into the bottom.
mm-hmm.
I think they knew the risks, but and I don't know. I think it's acceptable, and I don't know.
Your book ended by curmudgeons right now.
I
so.
know I can't. Well, like I mean, I don't know. I'm less and less thrill seeker every time I think about like abandoning my family, but it's still just like I don't know. Until that boat takes flight, you're just like, man, I bet that was pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Anyway, well, and I can understand why, you know, especially with all the tariff related news that we're normally covering, why something like this would be most popular with our, you know, the audience. Just like anything else, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I get that.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of,
Nice segue.
let's get into our next most popular story. Musk damaged Tesla's brand in just a few months. Elon Musk has been called the real-life Iron Man, even before it was cool. Even the screenwriter Mark Fergus, the guy who wrote the first Iron Man movie, said that Musk partly inspired the MCU's version of Tony Stark. Again, this is before there was even an MCU. Musk has built multiple empires that have made him the richest man in the world, with a perfect mix of engineering prowess, market opportunity, and an undeniable cool factor. But now, Musk is facing unfamiliar territory: brand damage. Tesla sales have plunged following protests and boycotts resulting from Musk's political aspirations. Profits fell 2/3 so far this year, and according to the AP, rivals from China, Europe, and the United States smell blood in the water. On an earnings call last week, Musk calmed investors by saying he was scaling back his involvement with Doge, his government cost-cutting effort. Musk also downplayed the brand damage and blamed upgrades to Tesla's best-selling Model Y that forced a shutdown of factories and pinched both supply and demand. But Dan Ives from Wedbush Securities said, quote, "This is a full-blown crisis." Nolan, is Tesla facing a crisis, and will the triumphant return of its fearless leader stem the tide?
Yes and no. Would
Anna?
Would Elon even admit that he made bad moves that hurt the brand? Like, even if he thought it, would he ever say it? Because just from an outside perspective, seems totally avoidable.
I think so. So right now we're in the not a big deal part of the PR makeover. But that's what you got to hold for when if things don't go right. Then you got to fall on the sword and be like, you know what? Maybe it wasn't the right move.
Because, like you said, he used to be this guy. He was the cool dude that helped build cars and spaceships, and now he's an unelected bureaucrat inserting himself into government affairs. And he so boldly said the fundamental weakness of Western civilization is empathy. So I'm going to find it a little hard to feel bad for him. And as the as the young kids would say, to put it censored, FAFO.
Oh wow!
Oh,
okay,
man.
Nolan.
Well, I mean, I guess, Anna, to use the same term, I mean, if anything, right now, Tesla and Musk are finding out.
Yeah. I mean, true. I think we do need to give credit where credit is due, though. Tesla was on a downward spiral for at least a year, I think, prior to Doge. Their aging product lineup was, and their delays, those were big ones. Those were already weighing on the company's sales in 2024. Mm-hmm. But this scenario, these last the 100 days or whatever, I think they really sent Tesla's global sales off a cliff.
Yeah.
And wherever you are on the Musk approval rating scale, like, you really cannot argue with the fact that his actions have been very polarizing.
Yeah.
And that is a fact that is backed up by poll after poll. You might like it. A lot of people do not like it, aggressively do not like it. And unfortunately for Tesla, that's a reality that I think has been reflected in their sales decline as well. What I thought was interesting was, to me, it suggested that maybe some soul searching was taking place at other companies who were viewing this, from the outside. You think of this person who is just this very well-known persona in the industry, and now no one can separate Elon Musk from Tesla. Mm-hmm. And so the consumer views the two as one and the same. And for a long time, that worked out very well for Tesla. As you pointed out, he was sort of this iconic figure, almost mythical figure.
It was cool to have a Tesla. You were jealous if someone got it before you.
Right. And it was just this very techie entrepreneurship, like, very cool, ideas guy.
Yeah.
And I think that, they sold a lot of stock based on that. I mean, it was just really a driver of Tesla's success. But it can also go the other way. And I think we're seeing that now. So there have to be some kind of risk reward discussions with companies that are like that, I think. We saw this also, if you recall, with Mike Lindell from MyPillow.
MyPillow.
He was so closely tied to that brand that when he started expressing some maybe divisive political views, his company really suffered after that happened. Mm-hmm. And so, again, wherever you are on the political spectrum, I think this is maybe a warning sign for some companies who have CEOs that are really active in the media, or they really align their own personal brand with the company's brand, that there are two sides to this coin. So it could be working out for you for a while, and then, the political winds shift and then it doesn't. And that's just part of the deal, unfortunately. It's not, I mean, good luck to Tesla trying to untangle itself from this. I mean, right now there's some rumors circulating about will Tesla's board vote to replace Musk? Those reports have been denied by Tesla. Mm-hmm. So it's really hard to know if those are grounded in any sort of reality, but you could see why that could happen.
Well, I mean, the Wall Street Journal yesterday or today reported that those rumors are very real. The only difference is when they were taking place and whether or not they're still in play now that he said, okay, I'm coming back at 3 to 4 days a week, so I mean, will they back down? Will they back down from that? I don't know. Because there is tremendous risk that Tesla is facing. I mean, you talk about MyPillow. MyPillow became a toxic brand primarily. I mean, they had 1,600 employees, 1,600, and became toxic. I mean, you talk about how crazy it is to have such a successful business built from the ground up. A true success story. We're also talking about 1,600 families, that were at risk because of the actions of one person. Tesla has 125,000 employees worldwide that are kind of really and we've talked about it anytime we talk about Tesla, how tied he is to the brand, and whether or not you can separate Elon Musk and his actions from Tesla. And I don't know. I think that you need to understand, the consequences of your actions, and not just what they have on you and your own personal worth, but also the hundreds of, the 100,000 people that work for you, that are reliant on you for their, livelihoods.
I don't know if he has that mental capacity to do that.
Yeah. Well, okay. So he doesn't, but everyone else, because what does he hold now? 45%
of Tesla?
Yeah.
I don't think it's that much.
Okay. Well, either way, there could be a majority now of people that could feel the other way, that do have empathy, that sad weakness.
Yep.
Empathy.
Destroying Western civilization.
I think the big question now is if he does step away from Doge and tries to maybe keep a lower profile for a while, is some of that brand damage reversible? And
do you think it is?
I don't think anyone knows right now, but I do think for many people, it's not. Yeah, it's not something that they're going to be able to overlook in the future.
I think that some of the things that he has said and some of the support that he has had, not in the United States, outside of the United States, I think that puts them at a great risk as well. I mean, sales in Europe are down 39%. Sales in Germany are down 62%. And those are because of actions that he has had not in the U.S., but in other territories. And I mean, I never liked it when people use the whole stick to sports sort of argument. But sometimes when you say stick to sports, there isn't $1 trillion in personal worth and 125,000 people at risk. And I mean, can't believe I'd ever find myself saying it, but stick to cars in space.
Yeah. Well, when LeBron James says something somewhat political, it doesn't tarnish a brand or people that work for that company.
Well, didn't it jeopardize their entire relationship with China? Didn't he say something? Anyway, let's not get too off track here. But I don't know. I think this is really wild to track and see if they are able to recover. I do think that there is this ability for supporters to just say that is the radical left setting cars and dealerships on fires, and they're the cause of this. And so I think that when you have that sort of radicalized side on the other side, that's not helping arguments against the actual damage that's happening as a result of one person's actions. Mm-hmm. And I kind of get frustrated and fed up with that lazy argument. It's just frustrating. Well, if you didn't have the radical left setting them on fire, it's we're talking about 3. Mm-hmm. Anyway. Anna, one thing that you like to always share is how valuable the company still is. I mean, the stock is still 25 times higher than General Motors. Yeah,
it's still massively high, but if you look how much it's deflated in the last 3 months, it was uber high.
Yeah.
I've always seen it as sort of a meme stock. But, again, Elon Musk has been a huge driver of the share price, really.
Yeah.
I mean, without Elon Musk, there's no way that share price would have ever gotten so high. So yeah, I do think there's more to fall there because to your point, even if he steps back, how much damage is done? I don't think the fallout is over here.
Yeah, agreed. And I mean, you can go back, you can check the tape. There wasn't a bigger supporter of Elon Musk and the way he was running his business than me. And it was just, I fall into that category of just the person that's what are you doing? Mm-hmm. What are you doing?
Yeah.
All right. Our next most popular story, bit of a two-parter. First, there was Intel expecting to cut more than 20,000 jobs. And then Intel CEO lays out plans to cut staff costs and bureaucracy to, quote, reinvent an industry icon. Early last week, rumors swirled that Intel was planning to cull more than 20% of the company's workforce in an effort to, quote, eliminate bureaucracy and rebuild an engineering culture. Well, that didn't exactly happen. Intel hasn't put a number on it yet, but cuts are coming. During an earnings call last week, the company laid out a cost-cutting plan designed to reinvent the company. While new CEO Lip-Bu Tan said the company took, quote, a step in the right direction in the last quarter, layoffs are coming. The company reported an $821 million Q1 loss, which still beat expectations, but still isn't great. And the company has, the CEO does still see a path forward getting back to basics. Intel is streamlining, which includes eliminating management layers. In an email sent to employees on Thursday, Tan said the most important KPI for many Intel managers was the size of their teams. But he believes the best leaders get the most done with the fewest people. The changes will mean layoffs scheduled to begin in Q2 as the company moves as quickly as possible to reorganize over the next several months. The company already has shed some 17,000 plus jobs last year. And the CEO, who started a little more than a month ago, recently asked customers how they were doing. They told him Intel was too slow, too complex, and too set in its ways and needed to change. Despite the challenge set ahead of them, Tan remained optimistic at the change to reinvent the industry icon and, quote, pull off a comeback that will be studied in business schools for generations to come with technologies that will, quote, change the world for the better. Anna, what are the chances students are studying Intel's comeback for years to come? And how soon until it becomes part of the curriculum? You know, because it might take a minute to stage this comeback.
I guess later.
Later? Okay.
Yeah, interesting that Lip-Bu Tan, the CEO, was able to blame customer perception for this need to cut costs, as if cutting jobs and cutting costs is in some way going to solve this problem completely. As I've said in the past, I find it unlikely that this volume of redundancy actually exists in any major organization of this size. And I think sometimes you tend to throw the baby out with the bathwater when you make these broad cuts. You're reducing management layers with a broad brush, and who knows what you lose in the meantime. Because if you look closely at what he's saying and what they're doing in response to it, it seems hard to rationalize to me. So customer perception is the problem, yet Tan's plan is to cut marketing, the actual stewards of like cultivating your perception.
Yeah.
And I also thought it was strange that, he wants to reinvent this company, but then is cutting R&D. So I don't know. I think it's easy to characterize these folks as layers of bureaucracy that are slowing down your company. But another way to view that is quality control and checks and balances. And something I think that's often taken for granted is all the times that these layers actually protect you from making mistakes. So Intel might find that when they fix this problem, they create another one. I think the other thing is businesses are cutting jobs because they want to cut costs, right? I think the real evidence of the goal is in this quote from Tan's email where he references increasingly volatile and uncertain macroeconomic environment. This is all about cost cutting and risk mitigation, both incredibly real and fair objectives for a business, right? But I feel like this is just maybe the start of companies cutting based on those things that are happening. We have some very, you mentioned Intel's earnings. They have been struggling. Yeah. We have very murky horizon for all these companies. We have a new CEO. And so, it makes sense that they're getting really aggressive. I don't know if I would necessarily say that they're doing it to be better.
Yeah.
I think they might be doing it to cut costs.
I think you can do both. I think you can cut to cut costs because, when we're talking about 8 layers, that's a lot. That's a lot of people.
But we don't know what those people are doing.
But it's also,
it's easy to be like, this is bloat. Believe me, I'm the CEO. Like we as observers have no idea what those people do.
On the surface, though, what does this sound like? This sounds like he's doging the company, and it sounds like he's doing at Intel what everybody wants Boeing to do. Kind of cutting out a lot of the red tape and unnecessary bureaucracy and empowering engineers.
Again, we don't know that it's red tape and unnecessary bureaucracy. I don't believe for a second that all these huge companies or the federal workforce is sitting on a massive pile of excessive staff for years and years and years, and no one has ever touched that before. He walks in and he's like, we have 20,000 extra people. That was very easy for me to see as a CEO who's been here for 1 month. Like, to me, that does not ring true at all.
Yeah, but I I don't know. I think maybe not all of us, but some of us have been involved with companies that there has definitely been unnecessary people and bloat. And that's even on a small scale. So I think when you become this kind of juggernaut, it exists. And I mean, when you're talking about Intel teams that are 8 or more layers deep, and then basically cutting out, trying to make the company a little bit leaner and empowering engineers, I think that you could do a lot of good there. I think that Intel and like Boeing is a company that was born because of engineering and maybe lost its way. And I don't know. I think he's saying a lot of the right things here. And I could see how it could kind of spiral out of control. Like when they talk about how managers actually were comparing the sizes of their teams. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous.
But how did those people get there to begin with?
Probably like
you think
legacy bad management.
They just had like carte blanche to just hire and hire and hire for no reason.
I mean, maybe.
I just think it's an assumption that these people are not, are not helping. We don't know that. We really don't know that.
I know, but it's like any company when the getting's good, like, yeah, grow, scale, resources you need, money, sure. Things are bad. What does everybody do? Like,
so they're cutting costs.
I know they're cost cutting, but I'm saying that it sounds from the outside looking in, like there are costs that can be cut. Nolan.
You're like, before Anna responds again.
No.
Nolan, please.
I feel like we got to throw it to Nolan and then we can come right back at it.
No, we're not getting anywhere.
Yeah, so, so Nolan, when you look at this story, what do you see? Do you see a company that's trying to streamline and put the right people in power to kind of find its way again? Or are you seeing a company that just base level's got to cut costs and that just means jobs?
So when I read the guy's, like his press release where he makes a giant statement, he says that the customers were complaining they're too slow, too complex, and too set in their ways. So, not to put words in his mouth, but if he's implying that this is a culture problem or a speed problem, is a headcount solution going to fix it by
yes,
kind of.
If you have 8 layers of management that you've got to check everything, like this company, like restarted this company because we always talked about how we'd be able to do something and fail faster than our competitors would be able to like run it up the appropriate channels. If every decision is running through 8 layers of management, that's slow. Don't you think?
We could just have a little more transparency, though. Just was what he said, the comeback for the ages, studied for generations. That just sounds like, trust me, bro, I have a plan.
I know, I agree.
But I mean, I don't know. I think I do understand. I get that. But I think that he did give a lot in terms of what his plan included. He said he's going to elevate engineering talent to the executive team that reports directly to him. He's going to cut internal administrative work. He's going to cut meetings. He's going to cut people at meetings. We know how people can, just fill their day full of meetings and just, I tell you what, I was in this meeting from 9 to noon and let me tell you what, we set up 6 more meetings because of that meeting. And you know what? We came to the conclusion that we're going to need a few more meetings. And the other thing that we haven't really touched was, what do you think about the return to work initiative? Because that was one thing where he's like, hey, we had a great hybrid policy where you had to be in the office at least 3 days, but compliance was, quote, uneven at best. And so now he's just like, all right, you got to be in the office at least 4 days a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's happening
if he gives
everywhere.
a reason, like physical numbers and charts and reasons, then yeah, okay. But if it's just like, we got to do this, this, and this because of this, then I'm not going to buy it. I got to see proof.
Well, Doug Hatch says Boeing lost its way because it changed its focus to solely be on the stock price. Doug, couldn't you say that sentence? Intel lost its way because it changed its focus to solely be on the stock price.
So what is this, though? What is this?
What is what?
20,000 job cuts. You don't think that is focused on the stock price?
I do think that, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is. It
yeah,
is.
I mean, it is, but like you got to right the ship, right? All right. Maybe not. We'll put a pin in it.
Let's put a pin in it.
And our most popular story this week, the American-made Slate truck EV arrives priced at $20,000 with no frills. A couple of weeks ago, we discussed Slate Auto's cheap electric truck, and Jeff said you were going to get wheels and not much else. Well, as much as it pains me to say, Jeff pretty much nailed it. And he's not even here for the victory lap. Slate Auto has revealed the Slate Truck, an American-made $20,000 bare bones two-seater EV. Slate CEO Chris Barman said, quote, "The definition of what's affordable is broken. So he wants to, quote, put the power back in the hands of customers who have been ignored by the auto industry. The Slate Truck will only be produced in a single configuration that includes steel wheels, hand crank windows, HVAC knobs, and no stereo. Of course, buyers will be able to select from more than 100 accessories available individually or bundled, like a flat pack kit that turns the truck into a 5-seat SUV. The standard Slate is gray, but you can add color and personalization through wraps. Inside, the basic dash is going to rely on a universal phone mount and USB power instead of an in-vehicle infotainment system. And despite skipping on many of the traditional extras, the Slate Truck won't scale back on safety features. The company says it wants to have the highest safety rating and outfit the truck with active emergency braking, forward collision warning, and up to 8 airbags. The vehicle will have a 150-mile range standard, but you can upgrade to 240 miles. It will also have a simple charging port so you can charge overnight on a household outlet. Refundable vehicle reservations are now available. Anna, for $50, the low price of $50, are you going to grab a place online?
I am not. But I will say that I would love to have HVAC knobs. Can I have those?
Yeah.
I don't need the
slider
thing.
Slide that doesn't even match where your finger is.
I never even know what is happening in my vehicle in terms of the climate control. No. Like I'll get in and I'm just like, the fan is on, and then I'm like,
no, sometimes the
fan, turn it off.
Yeah, like when the fan will all of a sudden just start blasting you too because maybe you hit the line one too many times.
Yeah.
It normally just used to give you that cup of coffee icon. Now just like straight air conditioning right into your face. Wake up.
I do have a thing where I can say, hey, warm up my feet. And then it will do that.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
But I would prefer knobs. Anyway. So yes, we talked about this story not that long ago when it was being teased. My concern at the time, and what is still my concern, is that the base model will creep up in price so much to actually be, desirable.
Not going to hit that $20,000, you don't think?
Well, so there's a few issues with this price point. For one,
it already came in $5,000 cheaper than initially speculated.
Okay, but I want to talk to you about that.
Okay.
So the price that they're quoting, $20,000 opening, is after the EV tax credit of $7,500 is applied to it.
Mm-hmm. So get in quick.
I don't think that is a sure thing that you would be automatically deducting from the price tag in your marketing when we know that, Donald Trump has already said that he wants to eliminate that. If he wants to, he will. There's some, once you trim it out, so once you add that, so really it's like a $28,000 vehicle, right? Yeah. You have this range target of 150 miles. That's very low for an EV. If you compare to what is on the market right now, doesn't really speak to what happens in cold weather or if you load it full of gear, which is kind of what this thing is designed for. So to get more range, you pay for the range extender. No word on how that is priced, but I do think that it would be easy to nickel and dime this thing for pretty easily up into the 30s or more.
Oh yeah, I think you could get to 50 pretty easily.
I think so. And if you look, I like the idea of democratizing the price point on EVs. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't know if the pickup category is going to support such a bare bones product. I mean, you can get a Ford Maverick for $28,000 starting.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a hybrid. You get 40 miles to the gallon. You'd have to give up a lot to switch to this Slate at the same price point, and you'd almost need to rely on that buyer to really specifically want an electric truck.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, why would you give up all the other things that you could get for that same price?
Yeah.
And I just don't know if those buyers are out there, that you have like a ton of people that are like, I really want an EV. It's got to be super cheap. And, that's the thing that I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I think the thing that we've seen a lot of EV companies come and go, startups and such. And I think the biggest thing that you always have to remember with them is they are not just competing against other electric vehicles. They are competing for buyers out of this entire pool, hybrids, gas vehicles. So you have to make that compelling enough to get those buyers to go away from gas.
Yeah.
And if you have 150 miles of range, and I mean, if all you have is a cheap price point and it doesn't have the features, then again, that price point is just going to inch up. And then suddenly you're just another EV maker in a very crowded market. And I don't see the appeal.
I see this as a really great entry point for startup local businesses that do construction, that do landscaping, people that need a truck that aren't going to go very far on a daily basis. I could see this being very appealing as as your beater work truck. I could also see this being very appealing to when my grandpa retired and still wanted a truck, and so they downsized, he wanted a tiny little red truck or whatever. And this would be, you could still have your truck and it wouldn't be a huge price to entry. You're not going far, you don't need everything.
But why wouldn't you want the Ford Maverick for essentially the same price? And that you have Ford, repair network to go to. What's the Slate repair network? Well, because, you don't know anything about this brand,
Yeah, because I think it's because you're an early adopter.
Your grandpa,
geriatric.
Yeah, your grandpa is an early adopter.
It's a real niche.
I'm just asking some questions.
Yeah, the early adopter octogenarian. Well, Nolan, Doug is on board. He says, "Give me crank up windows, yeah."
Disagree.
But he does say if you give Donald a Trump-wrapped version with gold trim, he'd love it. Or he'd at least look at it on the White House lawn and be like, you should buy one of these.
I often wonder, when was the last time presidents drove a car themselves?
I don't know.
They're not allowed to.
But from the time you get inaugurated to the time you leave, do you even remember how to?
Yeah.
Wait, are you really not allowed to the entire time you're
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. Never.
So,
but it's not on
there. So when I was reading the story, I thought, there's a lot of facets in my life where I enjoy minimalism. Mm-hmm. But is minimalism a gimmick that works in the modern day automotive industry? I mean, who is this for? Are boomers going to buy this? Gen X, maybe Gen Z? They like to customize things, which we'll talk about a little later. A potential I saw is maybe a bare bones vehicle could gain traction as the Teslas and Musks of the world, known for boasting sci-fi innovations, kind of lose their steam amid the backlash we just talked about. But
interesting. Yeah.
I just don't know if our customers going to see this as a potential or a compromise.
Mm-hmm.
And is it going to get made? Is this ever going to get?
That's okay. So, that's a really good point. So, one of the points that I took away was that this company does have its skeptics. According to one of the readers on our site, said while you are reporting this as something that is real, it actually is only a dream at this time. No registration with the NHTSA, DOT, EPA, or CARB. No WMI assignment for the company, so they cannot even issue a VIN number. Their website does not even indicate an address, so it's just a virtual company, which may be just a digital or with what might just be a digital prototype. With the money they spend on CGI, they could have established a real company.
Whoa.
So,
yeah.
They like I said, they have their skeptics. And I think rightfully so, right? I think that any particularly automotive startup, you should definitely tread carefully. If if you're betting on that being your next truck.
Your grandpa's going to tread carefully when he's an early adopter.
Well, no, but I could definitely see my dad putting down $50 on this and just being like, yeah, maybe, because it's, it's simple. It's simple. It's going to be easier to get into. It's going to be way easy to operate in the event that it's real.
I would like to get your dad on the phone right now.
Get him on the horn.
Can we call him?
What day is it? Thursday? Yeah, he doesn't work Thursdays anymore. He went hybrid. He went hybrid retirement.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But so Nolan, this doesn't fit like your minimalist lifestyle? Does it appeal to any of your minimalist tendencies?
I don't know, man.
It sounds like it does. It sounds like you're really wrestling with this internally.
I don't think I would buy this, and not just because of the skepticism of its existence ever materializing.
Yeah. What are you skeptical about? Hand crank windows.
Well, anytime I read a press release like we're going to build this many and this many and this many, like, okay, well.
Oh yeah, no.
Believe it when I see it.
Yeah. It has a lot of the standard PR flair in there, where you're just like, all right.
Like we want it to be super safe. Like, oh, okay, thanks.
True. Like, I want to see the car company that comes out and just like, we cut it to the bone.
No
you
airbags.
Probably shouldn't even drive it. Like, we're going back in time. No seatbelts.
Brake works 50% of the time.
But back to the minimalist thing. Like, while I may like to live that way, is that still the best marketing tool? Be like, hey, this has nothing. But
I think it's kind of where you see what's the company that's going back to knobs? They're like, we're bringing back knobs.
Yeah.
It's like the really overcorrection with people essentially being fed up with cars becoming too much of a consumer device and not a car anymore. I think that there are a larger number of people than we think about that just want a car, It's
still $30,000 vehicle though. I mean,
well, maybe if you give them $20,000.
You think that
now,
they're like, oh, please God, take my radio away. I just can't abide by that.
I'm
radio.
tired of music.
Okay, maybe not that minimalist. All right, before we jump into In Case You Missed It, we have another word from this week's old sponsor with a new message. This week's episode is brought to you by the IDC MarketScape 2024 CRM Platform Vendor Assessment from SugarCRM. Providing personalized and user-friendly experiences for B2B customers is critical for retaining lasting business relationships. However, doing this at scale can be difficult, but it doesn't have to be if you select the right CRM provider. This report reveals what CRM software vendors best serve industrial manufacturers and their customers. So download the IDC MarketScape 2024 CRM Platform Vendor Assessment from SugarCRM right now. There is a link to it in the body copy and a link in the live chat under Doug's last comment. It's right there. Nope. Okay, there's another one. It's in there somewhere. You'll find it. All right, in case you missed it. There it is. Doug's last comment is, geez, Gen Z can't even bother to crank up their windows.
Not Gen Z, but also no.
Quality response. In case you missed it, the stories that weren't as popular on our websites, but still stand to make a big impact on the industry going forward. I'll go first. I chose a story about a chemical maker that wants to build a shell around its factory in Wisconsin. Based in Columbus, Ohio, Abitech makes ingredients used in pharmaceutical, nutritional, and specialty chemical industries. The company operates a pair of manufacturing sites, one in Paris, Illinois, and another in Janesville, Wisconsin. The one in Janesville is old, about 118 years old. It dates back to 1907, and Abitech is understandably looking to modernize. The details of Abitech's expansion project are really unique. The company wants to erect a new, quote, building shell over its existing manufacturing facility, after which the existing building shell will be removed. The new shell will be approximately 1,900 square feet larger than the existing facility. According to a local report, city planner Trey Meyer says he's never seen an industrial expansion where a new outer wall is built over an existing factory. He says that Abitech simply wants to continue manufacturing operations during construction. Now, Anna, I chose this story because I have not heard of anything like this, and I thought I did. And so then I reached out to all the people close in my family in the manufacturing industry where I'm like, we've heard of this, right? Have we heard of this? And they're just like, no, this is weird. And I'm like, well, it's kind of a cool idea. And it really makes a lot of sense, right? If you want to stay in your current location, if you want to upgrade, you kind of build a new factory around it and take down the old one. And so that way you don't have a huge work stoppage. And I will say, so that's why I picked this story. I thought it was unique. And I'm also kind of curious. I did reach out to the company. I reached out to the city. I reached out to a lot of people involved, and they were all quiet on the subject. But, have you ever heard of anything like this?
No, I have not. And it seems strange to me that they want to invest in an overhaul, but all they're doing is basically replacing the walls and ceiling?
Well, it seems like clearly there's got to be infrastructure problems with a 120-year-old building, right? So I think that you basically do the expansion or the upgrades from the outside in.
I guess they don't want to do anything else.
Well, yeah, no. So I think that's what it is. I think you build a new exterior, and instead of just kind of what do you do when you have a new site? You lay the slab, you put out the outside, and then you kind of build everything inside. I think you just do that in reverse now, where they put out the inside, they take down the old shell, and then they kind of redo everything inside the way that they want. I don't know.
It's hard to know too, based on this, that it does say 2,000 square feet larger. So I don't know how big the existing facility is now, but maybe that's a sizable increase, and this old factory is just a small part of what they're envisioning.
Yeah.
And so it's not as much working around, but it's also just this big addition.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. I would like to see how it turns out.
Well, and I was thinking, they added just enough space so that way they can do all the electrical, all the plumbing, everything that they need to have that all built in before they start tearing stuff down. That's one of my thoughts. But
you could see the appeal of some of this equipment is tremendously heavy, and it's a chemical company, so maybe it's a hazmat issue trying to move things around, and that could be part of it too, is just trying to mitigate that.
Yeah, some of the people I was talking to in the industry, they were saying, perhaps they're running into zoning issues. There has to be a particular set of special circumstances as to why they would go this route.
Yeah.
But hey, one thing's clear. We always talk about these manufacturers that kind of abandon communities because everything gets old and then they find a better deal somewhere else. At least they're trying to stay in Janesville.
True.
Nolan, what'd you think of this in a company kind of upgrading the facility from the outside in?
So you said the reason they wanted to do this is that they could keep production going.
Yes.
So what is the benefit to this beside where the alternative would be you build a new one, and as soon as that one somewhere else, and as soon as that one's ready, you just tear this one down? Are they if they're trying to preserve the historical space because it's from 1907, I'm cool with that. That's pretty cool because history and stuff. But I'm unsure of why. I'm unsure of the why.
It could be anything from the location where they are situated. Maybe it helps with supply chain. To Anna's point, it could just be that what they work with would be very hard to move. Or it could just be that, they don't want to move. They just like where they're at. They probably have a good base of employees that are all close, and it works for them. Because I do think, you're right. I think that's the easiest way, right? You just find another plot of land somewhere else, put up a building, and then, hopefully everyone comes with you.
They might be grandfathered into some stuff too in the chemical industry, which could be another reason. I don't know.
That's actually a really good point. Being around that long where, they might lose some of those special concessions. So, in case you missed it, was a nebulous story about how this one cool detail about it is interesting. And more to come.
More to come.
More to come. Anna, what's your in case you missed it this week?
I picked a story about Starbucks debuting its first 3D printed store in the U.S.
Yeah.
So it opened this week in Brownsville, Texas, along the U.S.-Mexico border. And Starbucks' first 3D printed store is a drive-through only operation, and it was built by a computer-controlled robotic arm that poured one layer of concrete atop another. And I know that we've all seen some of these new and emerging housing communities where they're using the 3D printed construction technique, and it looks kind of like an oval of layers of concrete. That's what this looks like. Starbucks isn't saying whether more stores like it are on the horizon, but it is one of the first businesses to experiment with this type of construction. Construction experts say that the store is an example of an industry figuring out ways to use the technology. I think getting buy-in from such a well-known corporate entity actually does a lot.
Yeah.
Probably more than anything else.
Yeah.
For this technology, because I think it suggests to, people at large that this makes business sense, whether that's from a cost or a convenience standpoint, or maybe it's just a marketing gimmick for Starbucks to be like, hey, look at this cool thing that no one else is doing. But it does show the brand is placing some trust in this process. And it indicates, I think, that it's not some sort of flash in the pan. So I was interested to see this. I mean, I know that this technology, again, is growing in the construction field, but we have not seen really any of it for like a commercial space like this. I've never seen a Starbucks. Obviously, it's the first one. So pretty cool.
I thought it was really cool. One thing that we always talk about with these 3D printed houses is scale, right? You need to achieve scale in order for the cost to come down. And man, this is an opportunity for that to happen. And I think about it. If a company figures it out, right? Just like, this is how we like our stores to look. This is the layout. Basically, that is a file fed into the Cobot robot, making sure that they have the materials there, set it and forget it. And all of a sudden you have a 3D printed Starbucks in, 4 days. I don't know. I think that there's some real opportunity there. And you're also talking about a structure that is arguably could be more sound from an engineering perspective. But I really like it. Nolan, how about yourself? Is this 3D printing innovation as it could be used in the future going forward, or is this a PR stunt?
If it's the former, then I'm fine with it. I need a why. I need the transparency, because you said did they deny an interview request? They didn't say if more were coming. And one of the construction experts in that article said that it's using 3D tech costs more than traditional wood framing, but it helps address a labor shortage, could be faster. So if the whole purpose of it is to, find more economical ways to build their sites, then that's great. If the purpose is just to get people to go there because it's a 3D printed building, I don't think that's going to work, because I really don't. Does anyone care if the place you get if you get coffee from a 3D printed building? That might be cool for like a month. Is that?
I mean, I think first of all, I think it can be both. I think it can be an innovation, and I think it can be a PR stunt. And I do think you draw a certain number of curious people willing to travel, and something as easy as a cup of coffee will get people to come. I think that it's cool because it's also has a fair amount of automation inside, right? Like there's also robotic arms that are making the coffee.
Yep.
So I think that's enough to draw people. Is it enough to draw people longer than the first month? I don't know. I don't see a lot of people flying in to get a coffee at a drive-through Starbucks that was 3D printed.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm not the target audience because I don't drink coffee. So
yeah,
true.
I mean, that's why I'm having a hard time grasping the purpose.
I mean, even like the exposure alone, though, of this story and people viewing it, and worldwide, like that was probably worth the investment of building it.
Oh,
right.
100%.
Like it's a giant Starbucks commercial that we're all talking about Starbucks. So.
that has continued,
talking about it.
That has continued to pay off. Like, I mean, I think that's a really, really good point. That hey, if this marketing gimmick, as long as it doesn't fall apart, I thought one thing that could be a miss is not letting people inside, because being able to go inside those 3D printing buildings is really cool.
Yeah.
And I do like that they also kind of kept the structure warts and all, like there are visible imperfections. And I think that it's kind of telling the story that it is a work in progress. All right. So Doug says the concrete was mixed with used coffee grounds. I don't know if that's true, but if it was, that is a hell of an idea.
Really bolsters the construction.
That's right. Upcycle those. Nolan, what's your In Case You Missed It this week?
So I drew from my Gen Z manufacturing video series where I interview young people working in the industry, ask them what they want from their jobs, how they want to be treated. And the most recent one, which came out Tuesday, I titled it, Young People Prefer Mass Customization Over Mass Production. I interviewed a guy named is Adam Saleh, is a CEO and founder of Presk, a startup design services company. It helps consumers launch foot products, 3D printed foot products. And they focus on a blend of prompt-to-product workflow with 3D printed tech. And so some of the things I thought Adam said was interesting was that people's perceptions of additive are stuck in the 2016 to 2020 initial first market boom. And he said, generally speaking, this is why I like my skepticism with the last story. He said, generally speaking, especially with consumer applications, the end consumer doesn't really care whether or not a product has been 3D printed. says they want a solution and an outcome. And the approach that additive companies should take is selling what 3D printing affords. And as far as Gen Z goes, that's giving creative allowances and design flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
And he said a lot of young people are interested in collectibles and the ability to customize, which isn't new. People traded baseball cards and Pokemon cards, but technology has allowed that to evolve. And so he says young Gen Z workers, they want a certain level of customization, which additive can accommodate, so that they can make a product that feels authentic to them and lets them tell a personal story. And when that comes to in a manufacturing workspace, he says that they want tangibility, because he thinks they might be a little burnt out from the digital first environment, despite us constantly saying Gen Z loves technology. They want to use it all the time. And he said the goal should be for companies to help workers feel like they are unlocking something new in their creative identity that they can then share.
I mean, I think that's really important. And I do think that he's right in us being stuck in 3D printing, additive manufacturing as a gimmick but I do think rather than truly unlocking the next wave of products. And I do think part of that is that we're just now starting to see people like himself that have kind of grown up learning how to design within 3D printing. And so we haven't really unlocked these sort of new product designs that are otherwise have been unimaginable, because the biggest thing when you create a new product is you need to design for manufacture, right? It can be great, but if you can't make it, it doesn't matter. And that's something that has been a hurdle. And I think a combination between people that know how to design for additive manufacturing combined with the real possibility of AI being able to design for additive manufacturing, I don't know. I think that's when we're talking about truly unique, superior products being created. But I don't know. I thought this was a really, I've talked about it on the podcast before. I love this podcast series because we're getting a completely unique perspective from the workforce. And, I really liked everything that Adam had to say. Anna, your thoughts on the latest episode of, Gen Z in manufacturing?
I agree. I thought it was a really interesting report on this. I loved your subhead, in an era where ownership can be difficult. Additive gives Gen Z ways to own their identity. Absolutely, and this individual has just some really unique, I think, long-term insights on what can be done here. So kudos. I thought it was good. Yeah,
the ownership part where he said, let's talk about that. I thought that was interesting. Maybe even it's a little subconscious, like most young people don't own a car, they don't own a house, and they're kind of not looking to, just for various reasons, and subconsciously might just be looking for something that they themselves can control and say, this is mine, I created it, and in a perfect world that it's able to expand and be used among the masses.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, it reminds me a lot about some of the things that you hear from Phil DeSimone, who's the president of Carbon 3D, where he talks about, like, we need to get past sort of like, he says, the technology really hasn't gone anywhere in 10 years, and you need to get past just selling this sort of novel technology and really sell and understand the capabilities of it and what it can do for manufacturers. So no, very timely. And Doug says, and yet, Nolan, you don't think they will like the customized truck with the most design capability just because it has crank up windows.
Yep, that's its downfall.
Gen Z didn't grow up with crank up windows.
I have memories of cars with crank windows.
You do?
But were they already old then, though?
Probably, yeah.
Did you heavy sigh every time you had to use them?
Well,
hot in here.
At the moment, that was all you knew, so you didn't know what you were missing. But now that you do, it's going to be tough to revert.
It's just like a unique sound you don't hear in the world anymore. That like funk, 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 funk.
The vinyl seats in the back seat were like blisteringly hot. Nolan, do you remember that?
A little bit, yeah. See, like, why would we go back?
Just all you had was the lap belt. So free.
Lap belt
so free.
Across.
Yeah.
Maybe
all three seats.
Maybe they should take out seat belts too. Let's go all the way back.
Yeah, I mean, if you can cut some like $100 off the vehicle's price, just take out the seat belts and
think of what they're gonna save in buckle costs.
You know what? Horse-drawn carriages. Why not?
Yep.
Why did that ever die?
Hey, there's a real opportunity there. We'll talk about my opportunity at an auction with a rickshaw another day. Anna, what's your final thought this week before we get out of here?
You know what? I didn't prepare one. It's been like a rainy week here. Thus is spring, but I'm kind of over it, and I'm just ready for summer to start. I don't care that we're not going to get a spring. I want the rain part to be over. So let's move on.
Heavy into the rain part right now. Things are starting to bloom, though.
Yeah, that's true.
There's signs of life.
The grass is super green compared to last spring when it was super dry.
Apparently, my kids forgot what leaves were. They're like, "What's that growing on trees?" I'm like, "Well, those are buds that will become leaves."
It's been a while, but
it's nice.
Mm-hmm.
My final thought was that sometimes, one of our brands in our portfolio is food manufacturing. And every once in a while, manufacturers send us new products to sample. And recently, today, right before the podcast, received one from Deliciously Ella. They're a UK-based better-for-you food and snack brand that makes natural food products like oat bars. And Anna, I hear these oat bars are plant-based. It is a plant-based oat bar.
Finally, a granola bar that's plant-based.
But they also sent like a hat and a tote bag. And at first I was just like, oh, who wants this bag? And then I'm like, I'll totally use it. And it had a saying on it. And I just thought like, oh man, this is like, so let me know if this is tacky or worthwhile. And then I want to a little bit share the one part that made me laugh about it. So it says, eat more plants, go outside, be kind, drink more water, run a bath, get more sleep, hug a friend, move your body, practice gratitude. And I was just like, oh, enough already. And then when I was reading them, I'm like, no, these are all pretty sound. Like, even if I was just carrying this and somebody read one of those things and they were like, yeah, I'm going to do that. Like later, I'm like, okay, that's good. A tote bag can make a world a better place. But the last thing on the list really made me laugh because it's read a book. And
I think we have a coworker that is championed that.
And I did not hear the like gentle voice say like hug a friend, read a book. I heard hug a friend, practice gratitude, read a book, which is just if you
idiot.
Yeah, hey, you didn't know that's Freudenberg and not Fraudenberg. Read a book. And a frequent podcast panelist. It was just so that's why I had to hang on to this bag because
context is everything.
Like I want to like as I'm shopping with this, I just want to like shout it at people. Just like that's right, read a book.
Yeah.
You didn't know how like city council works at a very micro scale. Come on.
It's pronounced quinoa.
It's pronounced croissant.
Oh no.
So I just I thought everyone would get a kick out of that because I think we hear it every once in a while, in the office. Read a book. Nolan, first of all, I want to say thank you very much for stepping in this week. I really appreciate it. What's your final thought before we get out of here?
So I did not prepare one either, but then amidst the conversation, thought of one. So I am a very big sports fan. I enjoy sports and Cleveland sports specifically. Mostly baseball and football, but every once in a while I'll dabble in basketball. And my Cleveland Cavaliers are the number one seed in their conference in the playoffs. And you know me, eternal optimist when it comes to sports. I always say, if you have a breath, you fight, right?
Yeah.
And so they blistered through the first round, and I don't see anything stopping them from just taking it all, which is I see why people think this way. This is more fun.
Oh, okay. So being optimistic is like, feels okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the good part is I really don't care. So if they lose, it's like, all right, whatever.
Oh, I don't know about that.
The Cavs. Not with the Cavs.
I think you're
just going to shrug it off.
You're
okay.
just practicing gratitude, a little optimism, and it's okay. You know what? If things don't go right in the first 2 minutes of the game, hang in there.
I'm really not a fan of the NBA. I maybe have watched one game all year long. So that's where it really will not be an issue.
No, understood. Well, hey, they certainly have done better than the Bucks.
We'll avenge the Bucks.
There we go.
Pacers going down.
Help us out because when the Bucks went down, like Ben Munson's wife like sent him a consolation bouquet of flowers to brighten his day.
Oh.
So things didn't go as planned. But before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Nolan, David, or Anna at IN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You could also subscribe to our daily and weekly newsletters. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. For Nolan Beilstein and Anna Wells, I'm David Manty. This is the Today in Manufacturing podcast, and we will see you next week.